OK, well, let's bring you some breaking news here now. These are pictures of Old Trafford where fans have now spilled out onto the pitch. That's what you're seeing there on your screens. Manchester United fans angered by the European Super League what they decide about whether they can stick to that kick-off time, in fact, 4:30. It did look like the pitch might have been cleared, but there's still litter. There's still, of course, protests going on outside.
A sleeping anger has been awoken in English football. Now it's the turn of Manchester United fans. A core of supporters have opposed the American Glazer family since they took over this club 16 years ago. But this is no small minority. Here they are in their thousands. The ill-fated European Super League has started a fire, and it's ripping through the game.
The Glazers, they're not about the club. They're about money, they're about greed. They're about turning us into a cash cow, and that's what we don't want to be that.
The date of the rearranged fixture has yet to be decided, but events of the past fortnight may have marked the beginning of football's great revolt and revolution.
Anyone who fucking supports this, or anyone who decides to take the police narrative, anyone who just decides to go, all fans were drunk, fuck off. Anyone who lines up on that fucking narrative, you boot-licking fucking scumbag. How about shut up? How about you fucking Tory scumbag? How about fuck off and take the Glazers with you?
Stop sitting on that
big
fence.
Billionaires seeing an opportunity through COVID football. All right, there's no fans here. If we're going to make this jump now, let's do it now. They were very opportunistic. I wonder if the football fans can be opportunistic too. Like, this league is bullshit this year. We can't go anywhere, you know. This is a real opportunity to keep protesting every single game. Stop the league. Stop every fucking game. Like, this is an opportunity where we're not going to... The problem that Newcastle fans had, we tried to do walkouts. We had 30,000 people walk out in the middle of a game once, but the ones who can't stop going, who are like the diehards, or they just don't feel like, if they feel disloyal, they wouldn't go along with them. But now that ain't an option. Well, technically, you know, I know they're letting some up, but maybe now is the time, because no one can really watch games of football, to fucking just say, yeah,
go up a little bit and take a look maybe at some of the others. You'll be able to see again that for the most part they think it's all over. It is now, whatever it takes. Glazers out, Gazprom in, bloody hell. Taking the mick there, aren't they, big time? But this is the type of stuff that Liverpool fans are probably, some Liverpool fans there going, this is the type of stuff that we want to see, and all that type of stuff, because there are a lot of Liverpool fans who want, obviously, FSG out and stuff, but it showcases to me exactly why.
And I think this is the time now you push. You keep your foot to the floor and you demand change, like the Supporters Trust have just done. I don't think you're getting a reply by Friday. I certainly don't think you're getting a positive reply by Friday. And if that's the case, fine. More protests, more action. That's what's needed. The time is now to start going for it. The time is now to get behind this and enact change. I think this is the closest we've been in the last 16 years, not only to getting rid of them, even though I think that's the case. I think that's going to be a lot more difficult. But I think the 51% of season ticket holders being polled is certainly possible, if not probable, with the fact that the mayors of Manchester and Liverpool are pushing for that in Parliament. So I think that there's something fans are going to be able to do. And I think you're going to see change. I think this protest this weekend is going to...
We have found a direct connection between the Peasants' Rebellion in England, the French Revolution, the Ronald Reagan and George Bush political campaign, and the George Bush political campaign. As far as the Peasants' Rebellion goes, the Encyclopedia Britannica calls it a, quote, curiously spontaneous rebellion. Obviously intended to be shared with or read aloud to others. They all contained a signal to act now, which could put to rest the concept that the rebellion was simply a spontaneous convulsion of frustration that just happened to affect 100,000 Englishmen all at the same time. This from a letter from John Ball. In it he says, quote, John Ball gritteth you well, all and doth yo to understand he hath rungen your bell. Now right and might, while and style, Godspeed every dale, which means ideal, now is time, unquote. From priest Jake Carter, quote, you have great need to take God with you in all your deeds, for now is time to be war, unquote. From priest Jake Truman, quote, Jake Truman doth you to understand that falseness and guile in every flock, God do bote, for now is time, unquote. Now you'll notice that in every one of those quotes there was one phrase that stands out, and that phrase is now is time. Is take in great season. God do bote, for now is time. Amen. Unquote. Now folks, if you research the history of the French Revolution, you will hear that the spark, the word that spread through the country like wildfire, that ignited the rebellion in France, was, quote, now is the time. Literally the same phrase. Some say that in the American Revolution the same phrase was heard, and we find mention of it in several texts, but not like it was heard in the Peasants' Revolt in England, and not like it was heard in the French Revolution. But it was heard again in modern times. It was the campaign slogan of the Bush-Reagan campaign and was used again in the Bush campaign. Now is the time. Now is the time.
Unlike Japanese, with the theory Z, if you ever heard about it, where the workers are involved in the decision-making process, therefore they don't have moral incentive to fight their bosses. In the United States, it's just the opposite. The harder is the fight, the better. The more heroic they look. When the Greyhound network was on strike recently, the correspondents of local TV networks all over the United States were presented to the audience as a heroic, nice people. You see? The violent clashes between passengers, picketers, and the strikers are presented as something normal. 10, 15, 20 years ago, we would be angry, say, why so much hatred? Today we are not. We say, well, it's commonplace. Radicalization, militarization sometimes. As I explained on that stage, I took a step a little bit further. Shooting people. Okay, law and order now also is pushed into the area where previously people settled their differences peacefully and legitimately. Now we are getting with this court cases in the smallest irrelevant cases. We cannot solve our problems anymore. The society at large becomes more and more antagonistic between individuals, between groups of individuals, and the society at large. The media puts himself in the opposition to the society in general, at large. Separate, alienated. Okay? On that stage, you remember I was talking a couple of hours ago about the sleepers. That's when the students from, say, United States, if they are trained in Lumumba University, or developing nations, that's the students I was dealing with, are being sent back from the Soviet Union here. Or if they were already in the United States, in the country, which is an object of subversion, they spring to action. The sleepers go up. They slept for 15 to 20 years. Now they become leaders of groups, preachers, I don't know, public figures. Prominently they actively include themselves in a political process. All of a sudden we see a homosexual. 15 years ago he did his dirty job and nobody cared. Now he makes it a political issue. it a political issue. He demands recognition, respect, human rights, and he rallies a large group of people. And there are violent clashes between him and police, his group and ordinary people, no matter what. It's black against white, yellows against green, doesn't matter where the division line goes. As long as this group come into antagonistic clash, sometimes militantly, sometimes with firearms, that is destabilization process. The sleepers, many of whom are simply KGB agents, become leaders of the process of destabilization. Doesn't mean that Comrade Andropov sends Comrade Ivanov to the United States. The person who takes care is already here. He is a respected citizen of the United States. Sometimes he gets money from various foundations for his legitimate struggle for, I don't know, human rights, women's rights, kid lib, prison lib, whatever. There are sympathetic Americans who donate their money to him. This stabilization process usually leads directly to the process of crisis. In case of developing nations...
Talking this weekend, last weekend, and the European Super League stuff a couple of weeks ago has actually made change. It's actually forced people in government to say, here's what we're going to do. It's forced fans to break into the stadium in protest. There are things changing. We are no longer being ignored. But now is the time not to call it 1-0 and disappear. The time is to keep pushing and get the win. We can do this. We have to do it together. Keep fighting. Up the fucking Reds.